My name is Steve Masur, and I am an attorney. So you might be wondering why I'm standing here. It's because
we're not wondering why you couldn't turn on the mic.
Well, you're not. Oh, ouch! I'm actually pretty technically savvy, but it's because you've all been served with papers. No, I'm one of the partners at a law firm called MGA, which is Masur Griffiths Avador, and we've been doing basically internet digital media work for about 25 years, and so we've seen a lot, and it's been a really quite a fun ride for us, especially in this space, the VR space, where we've seen it go from, or I've seen it go from the 80s until now, and now I think is really the most exciting time, because the models, you know, even if you just talk about the way that the internet business models are changing, the models are changing where we've had all of these false starts in the VR space, and it's almost been defined by false starts, where, you know, it was going to be huge, but people's patience is, you know, it just takes time to develop this very complicated technology. And so we've seen it develop into some various tracks. So we're going to talk about those in the panel. And I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say about it. All I do is deal making. So, I'm more excited to hear what everyone else on the panel has to say. And this time we're going to make it a little bit more audio-visual, and we have some presentations that also present what people on the panel are doing. So I think the first one starts with Boo, is that correct?
Oh, hi. I'm awake. All right, so I'm Boo Wong. Just give you a quick intro, and then we'll play the thing, and then I'll say a few more words to explain what the heck you're looking at. But I'm the Global Director of Emerging Technology at the Mill. And those of you who've been around commercial production or have watched the Super Bowl, we start with 30-year history in film visual effects, and then also we make on average like 30 to 40% of all the Super Bowl commercials every year. That's why I mentioned Super Bowl. But the team that I head up is the group that works on XR and experiential and all the interactive products for the Mill. So what the reel that you're going to see is just a really quick 2-minute cruise through some of our experiential work, events, LBEs, XR as well, and I'll say a few more things after the pretty pictures. that was a really quick cruise through some of the work that we do. In kind of broad strokes, as I was saying earlier, we categorize it as more experiential stuff that is things that happen in the physical space. So it could be an LBE that has a VR experience attached to it, or we did HBO Watchmen activation at San Diego Comic-Con recently that had an AR booth in it. So we do a lot of those, and then also there's some products that you saw there. We use real-time tools to make kind of titles and graphics generators. And then also we work in XR a lot. We've done tens of VR experiences, and especially with Miss Christina Lee Storm, who's not paying attention. Anyway, yeah, I worked with her, DreamWorks, I just saw already. Spatial Land on How to Train Your Dragons, a super fun VR experience. And then we've also, done over 200 Facebook AR filters. So that's kind of a huge metric. Like you would think that, XR is kind of like, oh, it's just kind of fleggling, like, whatever. It's like we've done over 200 of these. We've also done 4 pieces of content, including 2 launched for on the Magic Leap platform. We've used AR for live shows, so there was something up there for EA Play where we had AR bursting out of the screen during EA Play last year. And we've also used AR on set because why not? If you have these tools, anybody's shot something, you want to be able to see your CG character live on the table before you finish months of post, or have a CG car live on set as well. We'll use AR as well for that. We've used VR for previs. So for us, at the Mill, we're looking at XR tools as not only ways to enhance production methodologies, but we're also looking at it as new ways to communicate with our audiences. And I think that's kind of it in a kind of broad stroke summary for now.
Okay, good, thanks. I already have good questions.
Sure. I'll jump in. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Heller. I'm the CEO of Metastage. Metastage is a volumetric capture facility here in Los Angeles. My demo is also going to be Piot's demo, right?
Yes.
Because he's integrated our volumetric captures into his interactive demo, so you can see some of our work when we get there. But volumetric video, or volumetric capture, if you're not familiar, is kind of like, it's a 3D performance capture, but it is live action. So unlike going on a mocap stage where you need to put on a point suit, you can go out onto our volumetric capture stage completely as you are, and using 106 video cameras, all facing inward at a performer, we capture that performance from every possible angle using a combination of infrared and RGB cameras. And on the other side of it, you get a ready-to-go, compressed 3D asset of whatever transpired live on stage. So if you're doing an AR experience or a VR experience, or even in virtual, there's applications in virtual production settings, anything where you need the real person and where no substitution will do. For instance, we have not captured her yet, but let's use Beyonce as an example, where only the real thing will do. And you need to have it in a fully 3-dimensional space. Coming to Metastage and doing volumetric capture is the best way to do that. And it's been really a really fun ride. We opened in August of last year and seen a lot of interest since opening it in the areas of sports, music, and actually the healthcare vertical, because they tend to be excited about using new technology to showcase their products and also train people. So it's been exciting, and there's always new applications and use cases, coming across our desk every day.
So Piotr, can you show us that now, or do you want to show it now or later?
Sure. I guess we can combine our intros. So just as a really brief intro into this clip that you're about to see, Arcturus develops volumetric video post-production tools. So imagine the Avid / After Effects built from the ground up for volumetric video. There is the opportunity with volumetric video to do fascinating things like creating branched narratives and reactive holograms. So for example, a person that you've captured can be programmed to respond to the viewer in real time. So this demo particularly illustrates a branched narrative. However, the next step in our demo creation of this rock, paper, scissors example is you playing against a hologram could be of yourself or of someone else, rock, paper, scissors. So there's a certain amount of machine learning and AI involved, but what we're trying to illustrate is that it is possible to have an interactive relationship with a hologram. And that is one of the promises of volumetric video and where our software comes into play. So this is just a video of essentially us putting the pieces together for a branch narrative. It doesn't have voice activated yet because it will be voice activated. It's just to show like how the pieces flow together. So you could play that little clip. Yeah, it should start like that, yeah.
Hi, I'm Christina from MetaStage. Do you know what a branching narrative is? Cool. And you just saw an example using volumetric video. MetaStage, working with Arcturus, can deliver branching narratives in volumetric video and open up a totally new way of telling stories. Let's try it out. Pick rock, paper, or scissors.
So you'd say rock, paper, or scissors.
People always pick rock. Okay, we're going to go on 3. Rock.
Paper.
So you get the idea. With a branching narrative, a viewer can choose any one of a few predetermined paths, offering a truly interactive experience. This demo was brought to you by MetaStage and Arcturus. Thanks, and have an awesome day.
So basically, you get the idea,
Hi,
right?
I'm Christina from MetaStage. Do you know what a branch...
It's all Christina all the time. You just never stop, do you?
And so the idea is simply to illustrate that it is possible to create that with a three-dimensional avatar hologram of someone and create a full immersive storyline in a fashion that you might decide.
Yeah, it'd be much cooler, no offense, if it was on a Magic Leap or a HoloLens, right, where you could actually see my dimensions and I was a hologram standing right in front of you. You can imagine the applications for things like hospitality, you know, or even narrative storytelling. So super exciting. That was the first time I saw that, actually. So good job.
Thank you.
Nice pants.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to jump on the...
Do you need to just, I can walk it to you.
On the device. Rock and roll.
You're going to show the really
And
long
audio?
video again?
You need the audio as well. Okay. Let's see here. My name's Ed Lance. My company's Vortex Immersion Media. I've been at this for about 12 years. Founded the company to build immersive experience venues in 2008. Wasn't a very good year for raising capital. So we quickly pivoted the company into popping up temporary immersive venues, mostly pop-up domes for experiential marketing. And we've done, 100 dome events, various sizes, up to 200 feet in diameter. Prior to launching Vortex, I designed planetariums, and prior to that, I worked for a planetarium manufacturer. And in the mid-'90s, we figured out how to edge blend multiple projectors on domes. So there's 1,600 digital domes in science centers and planetariums and like that. So anyway, we're chomping at the bit to be busting out these shows, and it's taking a long time to raise the capital to put up the domes. So what we did is we been producing content and distributing it to the existing planetariums and science centers, which really are not entertainment venues per se, but we've been able to distribute to them. It's taken a lot to work that out. But anyway, I want to share one of the productions that we most recently did. A very successful, 200,000 tickets sold, $35 average ticket price for a 1-hour show. So this show is called Mesmerica.
Mesmerica is an hour-long, fully immersive show that is a combination of James Hood's music along with artists and their works of art, animation from all over the world. Mesmerica uses the power of immersive media that fills your field of vision to evoke unique brain states. So in particular, he's using the power of the format to evoke positive brain states like happiness.
The concept behind Mesmerica is to bring a sense of well-being to the audience. It's playful, it's awe-inspiring, it creates a sense of wonder.
Well, the show is unique because it's multidimensional. So you have the imagery that goes on over your head in the dome. Then you also have James' performance on stage. You don't really see a lot of live shows that do that. It's kind of one or the other. It's quite a unique show, and James is quite a unique performer. We love his vibe. We love what he brings to the table.
So working with James is particularly interesting because he is an incredible collaborator, and the music is really sort of my script of what images to use and when and how fast to make them and what transitions to use. So when you come in and see this show, it really will transport you into hopefully something really, really cool that you've never seen before.
And basically, I would like people to feel happier than when they came in, and to realize that that came from within them, and their own awareness purged them of some bad mood or some stress, and they feel just a little bit lighter and a little bit maybe inspired by what you can do with your own awareness.
And this is our very first show that we're premiering at the San Diego Planetarium, and it's sold out. The first show sold out. So we added the second show, which also sold out in just 2.5 days.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, unreal, something that I've never seen before.
I recommend it because you will feel more happy and more relaxed.
I feel so elevated and I feel so light right now. I feel happy.
It was beyond words. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
My favorite part was the way that the visuals came at you. It surprised your brain. You never knew what to expect.
It was almost like overwhelming the way it would make you feel. It almost became an out-of-body experience. It was absolutely amazing. Everybody should come check this out.
Really great. I love how they played I think it's a happy drum, and all of that in the light suit that the guy was wearing. That was a pretty cool show.
I didn't realize the hour was over.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, it's done. Oh no.
You really have to see it rather than talk about it, but we hope everyone that's intrigued or interested will get an opportunity to have that experience. Oh, the next year we're going to tour and take this to planetariums and domes all over the world.
And in a lot of ways, the audience are the star of the show because it's their awareness that we're trying to play with, and to try and scoop them up and take them on a journey inside their own minds.
All right, so more location-based. Dan, you're up.
Cool. Can we do the table swap? Are you going to show anything?
You just don't like me anymore?
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go.
No,
So it's okay.
It's because you made fun of me.
It is. I made the lawyer joke. You never make a lawyer joke. Note to self, do not make lawyer jokes before the moderator.
By the way, you're also getting an invoice as well as a summons.
I figured as much, yes. I took 15 minutes of his time. Hi, I'm John Canning. I'm the executive producer at Digital Domain for New Media and Experiential. I'd like to say that I am her little aspirational brother, basically. So, yeah, no, this is true. Like, yeah. Yeah, but you've seen the stuff she does? I do, yeah, I feel like I should say what she said, that we do a lot of the similar kinds of things, which is a lot of fun. I get to be the visual effects person for other screens at DD, so I more often spend my time as the executive producer in neither film, nor television, nor commercials at Digital Domain, which now is the other stuff. And it is fun, and I think both of our studios have done this, which is take our technology and what we do from a film world and start applying that in a lot of different areas. And it used to be, oh no, that's film, you wouldn't cross-pollinate it. But you find that as video games, augmented reality experiences, VR, all these different areas start upping their game and going into the how to make this look better, higher fidelity, we apply those kind of techniques. So I've got a little bit of a video.
cusp of being able to interact with digital humans that are strikingly real. To be my own man.
Hello, friends.
Now it's my turn?
Now it's your turn.
Thank you.
No, we're skipping you now.
No video for you.
No video. I have a very short video. My name's Dan Ferguson. I'm one of the partners at a studio called Groove Jones out of Dallas, Texas. So I'm not from these parts. We're good. Okay. All right. Good. Grab here. Anyway, we're known for doing brand engagements. So we are primarily focused on the advertising marketing side, creating fan-based experiences. The piece I'm going to show today is what we did with FX Networks at Comic-Con, and I'll let you play through that. Short.
There's a great museum you should see here called the Museum of Jurassic Technology, similar to your video.
I'll check that out. After 29 stories.
29
Rooms.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a plug.
Okay, so are you done, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're done.
great. We can start talking. So, all right, so we've seen, just in the presentations, we saw really a wide range, everything from activations on an iPhone to using HoloLens or Magic Leap to location-based. So I guess that's my first question, is what we were talking about, how do you see this developing? Like historically, we all sort of waited for an iPhone moment with VR, where there was going to be a device that sort of explained to everybody what it was, and then we were off to the races. But that never really happened. Even in the gaming world, it didn't happen. So we ended up with a parallel path of arcades, basically, which is basically location-based VR or holodomes.
Well, I liked your earlier explanation of it's the Chuck E. Cheese moment, right? Leading us into the video game world. So from standalone arcades are the LBEs of today, and the headset devices are the Ataris and the ColecoVisions of the yesteryear, right? And what I thought was interesting is that I think sometimes people consider them all lumped together and they're all moving down this path at the same time. But I think up here we all realize that they're all separate, parallel paths moving at different speeds. And AR at this point, I believe, seems to be moving the fastest of all of them. That's because all of us have these in our hands and can experience an AR experience right now, as opposed to having to buy anything or go anywhere, even though some of the experiences at LBEs are phenomenal. The Void, Dreamscape, those are phenomenal experiences, and if you haven't been, I highly recommend them.
How many people have been to Void or Dreamscape or any of these? Okay.
All right. These people get out.
Yeah, well, they know what's good. But yeah, I think that that's an important distinction to make, and where I feel the technology is going is all of those things have been based so far, at least from our perspective, from the volumetric video perspective, is that while all of those things have been based on computer-generated characters, we see a future of real-life human characters. And that's where Metastage comes into play and other volumetric video solutions like that, because ultimately that's what you're going to want to interact with, is other people, not necessarily an avatar. So, I mean...
Well, I was going to say that if we look back how there was an iPhone moment, you know, VR came out, it surprised a lot of us, it was really powerful, but then it really didn't captivate everyone. When mobile phones first came out, it was very lame, the experience was very lame, but everybody bought it, everybody had to have one. It's a utilitarian device, it wasn't an entertainment device. And then when the iPhone came out, it was like, well, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is what a mobile phone experience should be like. And they really elevated it. And then it was a year later when the App Store came out, and that's how we were going to monetize off of it. And so when VR came out, like right now with the Quest, it's like, I wish that's how it launched, a cost-effective, really good piece of hardware, but it's going to take steps. And so I don't think we're really far off. It only took us 3-4 years to really come out with consumer version to Oculus Quest.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a couple of things in there. If we had waited to that, we would still be waiting, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's kind of like you got to ship the damn thing and get moving. You know, it's funny, is you hold up the iPhone, you're like, oh, you know, no, this ugly brick has got the same problem the VR headset has, right? I will do the same thing I've done. Everybody pull out your cell phones. Do it, pull out your cell phones, right? Now hold them up and experience the magic of AR for the next hour. Just stay that way. Let me know how comfortable you are, right? So we have the same problem with this damn thing. And oh, by the way, yeah, the iPhone came out. How well did it make phone calls? How well does it make phone calls today? But but we have to take these iterative steps, right? We're not there with AR.
We followed Steve, right? We don't need to make phone calls anymore.
I mean,
Don't get me started, but I mean, it's like, this is clumsy, just like the headset is clumsy for AR experiences. But we got to do the interim steps.
We do, because I mean, that's a responsibility that all of us have, right? And also the technology companies that are innovating in this area. I mean, the thing about holding it up, that's why social AR is so important, because, you know, think about the way we communicate these days, the 3-second format to commercials as opposed to a 90-second format for commercials. The current generation and future generations are looking for those short interactive moments. That's why social AR filters are so popular. You know, the other thing to bear in mind about the iPhone moment that we're all waiting for, there was a leak just yesterday, I think it was, that, you know, Apple looking at 2022 for an AR headset, 2023 and on for glasses. It's happening, and it's our responsibility in part of this early days community to basically innovate, because we have to be meeting the trend when it all hits.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's incredibly important to do.
Yeah.
And actually, one more thing about the volumetric capture is that so there's an installation up right now in Hollywood called 29 Rooms that I suggest you all go to. It's kind of influencer event thing. But we actually have an activation there that we did with Facebook, and one of the AR, there are 4 AR experiences in there, and one of them actually has a volumetric capture. And when you consider that that is actually happening on Facebook's Spark AR platform with all of the memory, you know, restrictions or guidelines, I'll say guidelines that it has, you know, that you have a volumetric capture
Is it
of a
truly
person.
volumetric?
Yeah.
Spark AR?
Hell yeah. It is. There are lots of things that we...
And that's why she's that good.
Tracking to like the team and also Facebook, because we had to work hand in glove with them, because this is actually like a fork of what is currently available. But the plan is that it gets out there, but it tracks to neon signs, projections, moving target, moving markers. So if you're interested in like kind of seeing where social AR is going, definitely hit up 29 Rooms while it's up.
How long is that?
Till the 17th. Thank you,
How many people in the audience are content creators? And of the content creators, how many are interested in creating content for these platforms? Right, okay, so there's a significant amount. Now, I have a lot of questions about that, and maybe I can just ask one and then you'll just answer all of them. But how do you author for this stuff? I mean, what are the tools that you use, and how do people who want to create more content for this, because I think it's still pretty light in terms of the content choices, especially since there's different platforms. You've got the domes that you have to create for the iPhone, the HoloLens. how do you do it? Like, and also the whole writing structure is different, right? I mean, it's a whole different way of thinking about narrative content and interactive content.
I think, I mean, the interesting thing is, that, you know, today you said, you know, how do you make content for television or how do you make content for feature screens? It's a pretty well-trodden path. There's a lot of standards. We know how to do that. Mm-hmm. The problem today, and this is the fun, messy time, right? I mean, I think, you know, it's interesting we have this conversation, is a lot of us work in this world that is, it's not consumer ready in a broad way in some ways, some of this stuff, right? Like you have to pick your path. I asked, well, what are you creating for, and who is your audience, and what is your intent? Because then it backs all the way into the tool set and what you're building for and things like that. It's much more selective now, depending on what you're trying to achieve. The volumetric path is different than the mocap, you know, skinning path versus all of these things are still fractional in what are you trying to achieve and where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do with it.
Right. Okay, that's a great answer.
So, you know, pick a through line, and we could start like riffing on one particular, but it's like, yes.
Yeah. Well, yes. Right.
Well,
right.
I mean, I completely agree, and I think like one of the interesting things I think all of us up here kind of work with is that because we're based here, or at least in the agency world, in creativity, right? Like we've got people and that are delivering ideas that help us, and we help evolve them right down our particular paths or our expertise. Where I think we need more help with, and it's teams that like Phil's does at USC, is like explores, you know, his students are exploring what are the use cases for this new technology. Because I don't think all of us yet even understand what all of those are. And it's almost like it's an outgoing, request is like we need more people thinking about these spaces and areas and how you can use them in your particular areas of expertise to help develop all of these use cases. Because that, I think, is one of the things that the industry lacks right now. We keep repeating a lot of the same things over and over again, as opposed to truly experimenting and offering up something fresh, which I would love to see.
We go to our safe zone.
Right, we do, and it's natural, right? Like we return back to something that makes us comfortable, and we understand how to build it, we understand how to make it, we understand how to make money off it. Yeah, sure, great. But as a whole, and if we continue kind of thinking of ourselves as disruptors in this space, we need to think about like, well, what are the other things that we could be doing that tap into other verticals that are exciting?
Well, jumping on that, I think part of it is Los Angeles is definitely a major hub for innovation in the AR and VR industry, arguably maybe the world. But we're an entertainment-focused city. Yeah. And so there's always a lot of conversation around, with volumetric capture at Metastage, which is what I can speak to most directly, around how can we tell stories with this? And I think that that's a very interesting thought process to go through, and I'm excited to see how people do innovate and tell stories with this. But it's volumetric video is 3D performance capture, so really taking it a step back and not just immediately jumping to entertainment, but asking, well, in what instance would being able to see someone's full body from every angle benefit the experience? I think that's kind of a better place to start with what volumetric capture might be good for and uniquely good for when bringing a consumer product to market. So I've certainly been focusing a lot on that. We were building a couple of internal pieces of original content at Metastage, and they're all in the yoga, health and wellness space, because for me that makes a lot of sense, right? If I can actually see the way the instructor is doing the poses, and even holding my phone, even as crappy as that is, again though, it's not it's not instead of a class. I'm not going to use my phone and look at the yoga instructor instead of going to a yoga class. I'm not going to try to get into pose while holding it, but as an instructional aid to supplement my class, I can now, in my own home, in my own time, see the correct form, how I should be trying to get my body into that pose, and maybe do it with one of the world's leading experts.
That's cool.
So that's just a little anecdote. But
well, I often say, and you went straight to it, which is, if somebody comes with an idea, please don't try to attach the technology to an idea. Don't come and say, I experienced this early in the days of social. I'd get some creative that would come to me and goes, we'd like to use the Twitter. And I'd often say, how about you just tell me what you're trying to achieve, and then we'll figure out the best way to serve that. You know, and I think that constantly holds true, because the
But if you're excited about a new tech,
Yeah.
I also encourage you, let's say you just think volumetric sounds cool and you want to be an
You just want them
innovator.
to say volumetric.
No, I'm saying, if you're interested, then it's just about, well, think about what does it do? And what industries might it make the most sense for?
Well, you know, ultimately, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's why we're kind of all coming at it from different directions as well.
Absolutely.
You know, product teams are going, and technology teams, their responsibility is to basically develop the platforms that we're all going to use either to create things or to enjoy experiencing as part of the public. You know, and that is just as important as those of us who are sitting there being like, look at all these products. What shall we do to tell our story? What shall we use? So I think that, you know, we're all coming at it, but it's all just as valid. You know,
Right,
it's just from
right.
different
And
angles.
one of the things I wanted to just touch upon is and by the way, we don't have a lot of time left, apparently. We're
not giving up this room.
You said we had an hour and a half.
This is how.
But,
we'll have to pry this table from.
But tools, you know, I'm just gonna sort of move to tools. You know, one of the things that made, you know, we keep talking about the iPhone. I don't want to always come back to that, but it created a tool set for everybody to create content, and I think that's something that we're seeing develop more in this space too. For example, I think Metastage is a tool essentially that allows people to create in this area. Like, what other things do you think would be good? Sort of, how do you enable sort of the masses to create this? Because that's where you're going to get your huge ideas from.
Depth kit is great too. You know, on the other side, if you're interested in volumetric and you want a tool that's not a professional stage, depth kit is a great, easily accessible tool that anybody can use. That's pretty inexpensive.
I mean, that's the challenge. I think you're going down a path where, like, some of the technology on this panel is extraordinarily fresh and bleeding edge, and therefore is not easily accessible to everybody unless you're building it yourself. In which case, like, you're a research scientist and you understand all the pieces and kind of put it together yourself. And we understand that, I think. And part of that is a challenge, is to then how do we take this tech and trim it down, focus it. That takes time before we can say, like, okay, you'll be able to do a volumetric capture off your phone. I mean, there's some versions of it that exist right now, but would that be the same quality as Metastage? Hell no.
But to John's point, you got to just get started.
Exactly.
And experiment.
And it depends. I mean, you know, look, if you're doing it, capturing it on the phone, but only going to a smaller screen, the resolution doesn't matter. Like, again, you're making some choices. I mean, if you look at the nice thing is you can see how 360 video is starting to become just another video capture method when, you know, your tool set in Adobe Premiere handles some of that just fine, right? Like, you're looking at some of the tools that we know. You guys are building a tool set for taking what was an output, you know, that was like, oh, I'm just going to have to accept it. No, you're like, great, here's a tool set to manipulate and modify that. So the tool sets are coming along. If you look at any of the real-time engines, Unity, Unreal, those are our tool sets now.
And then even on, like, the lowest barrier to entry, Spark AR, Lens Studio, that's a tool set. The barrier to entry is so low nowadays. A kid can create a lens and get a cat. A cat can build a lens.
Yeah, see,
that can be played by millions of people.
I'd like to say something.
Has your cat built a lens?
Here's the thing. The tools, right, support access to the platforms. If you want to talk about disruption, it's the platforms that are disruptive, right? So the iPhone came out, and everybody's, you know, rushing to create tools and to create content and to create, because it's a widely adopted platform. And I think, you know, with VR, it's not quite there yet, and people are not consuming the content. And it's really no surprise to those of us who are around in the early 90s, because VR's always been great for demos, and people go, oh my God, that's so cool. Thank you. And that's about as far as it's gone. You know?
Well, that's exactly where I wanted to go next, is just the money. So how do you make money with this? So I think there's a bunch of ways, right?
Make something useful?
Well, like Wisdom in downtown LA is making money, and they're doing it by doing events at a space. So location-based VR, event-driven Marketing is one way to make money. Making money as an advertising agency is a way to make money. And I feel like those two are what's really hitting it over the fence right now, and from a cash perspective, but what's coming down the pipe.
Commercial and enterprise, right? I mean, the trick is if you take it out of the realm of, gee, I might be able to, into the realm of this helps solve a problem. And I often push to, if you look at VR and the purpose-driven side of things, where you can get over the ergonomics. Consumers don't need a hot, heavy box on their face, but a doctor or an auto designer where you say, hey, this is going to make your job easier, or on set, doing virtual production and things, where this tech is something that's helping me do my job.
Right, like Dacry went into.
Right, and it's, take it out of the lofty, I want to go to every festival. Great, you can take it to every festival, you're not going to necessarily make money. To the, how do I make this useful to somebody to solve a problem? And that's where, the healthcare industry, education, training are all verticals where you see certain companies.
That's where we're a studio, we create content. It's been primarily focused on fan engagement, brand experiences. The last 2 years, we're doing training. And we're doing a lot of content for training. Why? Because the tool sets are cheaper, people are more accepting of it, and it works really great. So you don't have to invest in a gigantic studio or a lot of expensive hardware. Corporations are throwing money towards training, applications, and experiences.
So that's
working.
Right, and that's a great takeaway for the panel. Is you got to be ready to pivot to what's working.
You have to pivot when the time is right.
Yeah. I also think the domes are really good because you don't have to strap your phone to your face, right? You just go out and just have it, and it's a community experience. And I think we're going to see a lot of
and it has throughput,
yeah,
right? I mean, if somebody comes through and says, I need to get X number of thousand people through something in a day, you're not necessarily going to gravitate towards headsets where a dome.
Yeah, I went to a Grateful Dead show in 1987, and I went to Wisdom on Saturday night. They more or less recreated the feeling of it. Like you knew you were in a fake Grateful Dead show, but it felt like a Grateful Dead show. Wow. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
He was stoned about
So I think that's it, isn't it? Yes, the hook has arrived, and we have to leave. Thank you very much.
Look at that. Look at that.